In a world drowning in data, it's not the data analysts who rule. In fact, data analysts should be more impactful inside organizations, but we are brought in hundreds of times a year to organizations to help them figure out what is happening to the data analysts. Why? Data analysts are so close to the data. They should be the ones that are driving the insights and driving the action, but instead, they're often waiting in paralysis by analysis. Instead, effective business presentations translate data. They use it for sure, but they translate the data into actionable insights in an effective way that makes a huge difference, not just for organizations and their external partners, the people that they're selling to and working with, but also internally, streamlines meetings, creates more effective research processes, uses fewer human resources, and leverages the insights that you're able to have for more impact in less time. Today, we're sharing with you 5 key business presentation basics so that you can analyze whether your presentations are up to snuff or not. Business presentations enable a manager or an analyst, actually anyone inside an organization, not just to present information, but to orient their business presentations around creating action and gaining buy-in. There's a huge difference between information and action, and most organizations wade in an abundance of information without translating that into the key actions that will make a difference. We've been developing and delivering presentations for over 20 years, both as consultants at McKinsey, Bain, and BCG, and more importantly, as management consulted when we train and equip organizations from analysts all the way up to senior directors on how to train and manage the receipt of business presentations so that they are more focused, more actionable, and use more of the resources that the organization is prepared to provide. Business presentation skills are not natural, but focusing on the 5 key pieces of an effective business presentation can help people move from poor business presenters to great business presenters. Here we're focusing not on the flair and the funk that goes on top of a business presentation. We're actually focusing on the core content inside the material so that when somebody has a great substance to work with, everything takes care of itself. Number 1, lead with the punchline. We have received organizations' presentations, and it has taken us, in some instances, to page 67 to find the takeaway. Why is that? Many people are conditioned, especially in data analyst roles, to begin with the data, to move through a process, to elucidate what that process is, to explain how they got all of their different options, and to present a menu at the end. This is the least effective form of business presentations. Instead, great business presentations command the audience by telling them at the beginning, we should invest $1 million in a new line of business. And I did all the research to support how I can prove that this is the right move for our organization. It transforms the conversation from an expectation of process where people show up and tune out to a conversation around action. It demands that the data analysts use proof, not process, and it ultimately refocuses every meeting inside an organization. Number 2, understanding your audience and tailoring the arguments to your audience's objections, not to your sales features. We work with sales organizations in large companies, data analytics, healthcare, and what we often find is that they do a remarkable job explaining why their product is incredible. The problem is that someone isn't going to not buy from you because they think your product is terrible. They will agree with you in most instances that your product is amazing, but they will not buy from you because it's disruptive to their process, because it's expensive, because it will require something of them that they are unwilling to give. Those underlying objections are the ones that you must address in every presentation. You have to do it whether you're working with external partners like the sales organizations that I've talked about, or even whether you're trying to persuade someone internally. If I go to a supervisor and I tell them, I would like for you to do this thing, their natural inclination is to say, no, I would like to do nothing else, and certainly nothing new. So what most people assume is that the persuasion is on the core content, the quality of what they're offering. It's not. It's on addressing the concerns of the specific audience. And so we begin every presentation creation by thinking of the 3 reasons why someone will not do what you want them to do. When you lead with a punchline, you know that that's the assertion, what they want them to do. When you are working through this key piece, it transforms the way that the organization begins to think and begins to persuade. It commands executive presence, and it demands a response from your audience. The third aspect of great business presentations is that they kiss. They keep it simple, stupid. And one of the most challenging things of a business presentation is actually to convey complicated, data-rich information from organizations that have too much data at their disposal in a way that actually focuses on the key takeaway or the key insight. Many data analysts, their tendency is to explain that they used a large volume of data, that they have many options, that there were thousands of ways that they looked at something, when really what the audience is looking for is a simplistic view. And there's a famous quote, if I would have had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. That's really the effective piece that we pull in to our presentation training. So once we move from the punchline and from the arguments, we focus on each individual slide, making sure that it has the maximum amount of impact in the least amount of time. We also here really begin to focus on how the interplay between what's on the slide and what you present off the slide work together. If you have more than 40 words on a slide, your slides are too busy and you begin to divide your audience's attention, and they have to choose between whether they're going to listen to you or read your slide. If you have more than one insight on the slide, you'll often confuse an audience rather than enriching their understanding. So it's critical that you keep it simple, stupid, and have one insight per slide at the maximum of 40 words. Number 4, the best business presentations build in specific times for audience feedback. These can include questions, polls, periods for discussion that are specifically timed inside the presentation. If you assume that your core focus is simply going to be presenting to someone, you will lack the results that you're looking for from the presentation, which is their engagement, their buy-in, and their action. So it's critical that on top of what you want to present from an information standpoint, you create these patterns and processes inside your presentations to ensure the maximum audience engagement. Without this, you're talking at your audience, not with them, and there's a huge difference. Number 5, looks matter. We had a rule at Bain called the 0 defect rule, and the hypothesis was this: if an organization is going to trust you with their dollars, they want to believe they can trust you with their details. And in this situation, you're thinking about everything from the beginning to the end. Is your font consistent? Is your formatting sensible? Are you using the same colors throughout to emphasize the same messages? If you don't do these things, you're demonstrating that you're not at the detail orientation that a firm will trust you with, but you're also creating conflict and confusion throughout your presentation. It takes a little bit of extra time, but if you focus more on the punchline, the storyline, the address of the arguments, and you have a solid presentation that is actually limited in what it says, you have more time to focus on the details. If your organization is failing on any one of these 5 fronts, not starting with the punchline, not addressing the underlying objections of your audience, not keeping it simple, not building in engagement points, and finally, not focusing on the details, we would love to help you. In fact, we have a transformative training that can help with presentation, storytelling, and more. And we would love to present that in a keynote format or in an actual engaged training where we work with your folks both together and one-on-one for your organization. You can reach out for more information. Thanks so much for listening to this content. And if you have questions about great business presentations, we would love to help.